is understanding that once something like testosterone for men has come down, you can't really push it back up unless you go down the route of testosterone replacement therapy. But if you're coming in earlier on in your 30s, there are things you can be doing to slow the rate of decline. So, getting your diet right, good quality nutrition, doing things like training in certain ways. So, compound lifts, things like the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, things like those. We can look for things like organic foods, organic grass-fed beef rather than like mass-produced beef. All these things that haven't had the antibiotics, the chemicals added to them, give us a much better chance. In the 60s, when we first started to get the contraceptive pill for women, which of course is having an effect on estrogen now. That goes into the water supply because when women urinate, that goes out into the water system. The water's recycled, so there's more estrogen in our water. There's been cases of streams where frogs have actually started to lose their male genitalia and become more female, but just from the estrogen levels of water. So that's one thing.
Welcome to another episode of Life Coach Code. I have something truly exciting to share with you today. We are organizing a summit in November, 4-day virtual event from 11th of November till 14th of November. It's called the Superhuman Summit. And on this summit, we're focusing on the 4 fundamental pillars of the human being: the spirit, the mind, the body, and the heart. We believe that in each of these 4 fundamental pillars, there is a hidden superpower that you can uncover, understand, embrace, and harness. That's why each day we are focused on one of these 4 fundamental pillars. There will be over 25 coaches. There will be over 12 workshops, panels. It's going to be a beautiful networking event, but you can network with like-minded individuals, and you will get also a lot of free things from the coaches themselves. The most incredible part about this event is that it costs less than 1 meal. And for the cost of less than 1 meal, you can get 4 days of transformation with over 25 coaches, as we said. So if you want to grab your 4-day pass, you can go to the link in the description or go to lifecoachcode.com/superhuman summit, and you can get the ticket, as I said, for less than the cost of 1 meal. This is unmissable event. It's going to be the most epic event. We are excited. I'm excited, even though we are organizing it, because we know the experts that are going to talk about. We know what they're going to talk about, and we know that we carefully selected the right individuals that will talk about the right topics at the right order, just to help you uncover all of these 4 superpowers that you have within yourself. So today I have a special guest. It's one of the coaches that will talk about on this summit. It's James Davis, and James is an expert on hormones, and I will share a little bit about him so you get to know him better, and then he can come up and talk. James Davis is a multi-award-winning psychologist and coach specializing in helping driven individuals in their 40s to 60s to avoid burnout, anxiety, and weight gain. With a unique blend of qualifications and a holistic approach encompassing mind, body, and spirit, James offers one-on-one coaching, group coaching workshops, and programs to drive rapid change and new behaviors. His media background and podcast, The Midlife Mentors, provide a distinct perspective on personal branding and communication, making him a sought-after expert for well-being and performance enhancement in both individuals and organizations. So, James, thank you for being here. Hello, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me. What an introduction, thank you.
It's the only thing that you deserve, James, because there are a lot of things about you that I would like to mention, but it would take a lot of time from this podcast. So let's jump right into it. I want to ask you a simple question. Maybe that's not so simple. What are hormones?
What hormones? We can think of hormones as chemical messengers in the body. And we produce them ourselves, but the thing is, we don't actually have conscious control over them, and they can influence so much of our physiological processes and affect our psychology as well. So they'll affect how we're feeling, how we respond to things, as well as altering our mood and altering like our physicality as well. So I think it's really important to be aware of them and aware of the steps that we can take to optimize them and work with them.
In your opinion, what is the worst thing that we are doing each day that is harmful to our hormonal balance?
Easy. Stress. Stress is such. I always say, think of stress as the negative multiplier for all the negative hormonal effects that you don't want, right? Particularly when we get something like midlife for males and females, when we have declining levels of our sex hormones, as females go through the perimenopause, menopause, may go through the andropause, we've got a number of negative effects. When we get stressed, we produce cortisol, amongst other things, but cortisol really negatively amplifies all those things that we don't want. And aside from that, we know stress is just generally bad, right? It causes inflammation throughout the body, in the brain, it sends our blood pressure rocketing. It's got a whole host of negative health connotations. So the biggest favor we can do ourselves, I think, that is within our control, is to take active steps to manage our stress levels more effectively in life.
So stress is number one for you. Would you say that there are certain foods that we are taking each day that might be harmful to our body and our hormones, like sugar, for example, processed sugar, and etc.?
Yeah, definitely. So sugar is a massive one. The more we learn about sugar, the more we learn how bad it is. It's inflammatory to the brain and the body. It's bad for our gut health. Now, interestingly, we produce most of our neurotransmitters in our gut, which are similar to hormones. They're chemical messages as well. And they travel from the gut to the brain by the vagus nerve. It's a very fast connection. So they have a direct impact on our mood and our psychology. And sugar actually negatively impacts our gut health. Sugar also can impact our endocrine system, that is our hormone system. And the sad truth is, in today's society, there's so much sugar in so much of our food. It's not when we're adding it with a spoon to our tea or our coffee. It's in all the foods we pick up because it's cheap, it's addictive, and the food manufacturers know this, so it's in absolutely everything. So we need to start educating ourselves how to avoid sugar.
That's really interesting. So what made you work with individuals that are ranging from 40 to 60 years old? Is that something, that age frame that's happening with your hormones, that you need specifically more attention to pay to, or is it just for some other reason?
The main reason actually is because my wife Claire and I reached that age ourselves, so we were kind of starting to experience some of the effects of this. But more than that, because our lifestyle was already quite healthy, we're seeing so many of our friends, be like, "Oh, is this beginning of the end? Now I just have to put up with like my waistline getting bigger, low energy, low libido, confusion, brain fog." And we're like, no, you know what? Yes, this is going to happen. It's part of aging, but there is so much you can do with lifestyle adjustments to help manage this effectively. So we're really passionate about that. Of course, issues with our hormones can affect us at any part of life, but it is true that everyone that ages will experience the effects of hormones, kind of at midlife and beyond. So I think it's really important to become aware of what the processes are and how we can manage them super effectively.
What are some things that you can do when you're younger, for example, 20s, 30s, that will help you to have a better transition in the later stages of life in the context of hormones?
So I think the earlier you can start, the better. The hormones are going to work on their own timetable. I think number one is being aware of what's coming down the road for you. I'd say number two, in my experience, people get very hung up on the physical effects of hormones. Things like weight gain, loss of muscle mass, some of the things that show like loss of energy, but also people underestimate the changes in hormones, the effect that can have on our psychology, right? We become more risk averse, we have high levels of anxiety. So I think being aware of that and starting to bed in actually good positive psychology practices early on will kind of prepare you. And then of course, in hand with that, being as healthy as you can. So having a good movement routine, looking after your nutrition, all that's going to help you as you get older and reach that point where these changes are coming in.
And I know a lot of people that, for example, are approaching 30s and 40s, and they, as you say, believe it's the beginning of the end, that their body is now starting to decline and their energy will decline and they will have less energy to exercise. They cannot gain muscle. So there are a lot of people that believe that their sexual life is ending after 40, that their sexual hormones are going away. So what is your take on this? What will you say to these people that are believing that you have basically no say of what your hormones are going to do to you?
Well, I'd say the first thing is be careful, because beliefs are very powerful, right? You know, what we believe, we can actually make it to come to pass. So if you're already in that mindset, maybe step back and examine that. And I'm sure there's going to be people giving great talks about looking at beliefs and how you can change those. I'd say that's a key part of it. I'd say the other thing is understanding that once something like testosterone for men has come down, you can't really push it back up unless you go down the route of testosterone replacement therapy. But if you're coming in earlier on in your 30s, there are things you can be doing to slow the rate of decline. So, you know, getting your diet right, you know, good quality nutrition, doing things like training in certain ways. So, you know, compound lifts, things like the squat, the bench press, the deadlift, things like those. So when we train at intensity, we temporarily bump up levels of human growth hormone and testosterone. And if we continue doing that day after day, it's going to slow the rate of decline. So there's lots of things we can be doing. And there's research out there that shows for both men and women. For men, it was erectile dysfunction. Cases were far lower in midlife men who were regular exercisers and exercised at intensity. And the same for women. Their libido was generally higher when they exercised more. So there's a very clear link between exercise movement and our cardiovascular system and libido. So it's important that, yes, hormones play a role in that, but it's not just hormonal, and there are things we could be doing to help those hormones decline at a slower rate.
Yeah, there is a massive decline in testosterone in the world today for some reason. I think from the 60s till today, it's dropped over half. And don't get me by the word, I'm sure that it's dropped more than a half. I just don't know what exact years, but it's clearly a massive drop. And there is some saying like the 80-year-old person in the 60s, it has more testosterone than the regular male today, young male. So what is your opinion? Why is this drastic drop on testosterone happening around the world today? Are there some things that we are doing that we are not aware of, that we might need to stop doing so we keep our testosterone high?
I'd say there's probably a few factors playing into it. The first is just general level of pollutants in the environment. So number one, you know, if we look at when this time started, you know, in the 60s, when we first started to get the contraceptive pill for women, which of course is having an effect on estrogen now. That goes into the water supply, because when women urinate, that goes out into the water system. The water's recycled, so there's more estrogen in our water. You know, there's been cases of streams where frogs have actually started to lose their male genitalia and become more female, just from the estrogen levels of water. So that's one thing. The other thing is we have a lot more chemicals in the world that actually disrupt our endocrine system as well. So things like pesticides, certain types of plastics, again, they get into our food chain. That's disrupting our endocrine system. The next thing is our food chain. Again, if we go back to like the 40s, 50s, we're eating very natural food. Now we're eating a lot more processed food. We don't really fully understand what effect that's having on the hormones pathways, but we can already kind of see that it's not good. But secondly, even the things that we were thinking were natural, like meats, you know, because we're mass producing now, there's a lot of antibiotics and chemicals going into cattle, into livestock, that again, it's coming through the food chain, having an impact on hormones.
So you would say that we are surrounded. Is there anything we can do to just avoid these things? Because you say it's in the tap water, it's in the food we eat, it's in the air we breathe. So how do you manage to just optimize your hormonal health?
It's tricky, right? But there are a few things we can do. Number one is make sure that, you know, we're filtering our water or getting our water from natural supplies that haven't gone through the recycling system. So not tap water, but maybe bottled water from springs. Pollutants in the atmosphere are harder. We can avoid certain types of plastics that we know when they're directed with heat or sunlight, they'll leach chemicals out. So we don't see those so much anymore. They've been phased out, but just be aware of those. We can look for things like organic foods, organic grass-fed beef rather than like mass-produced beef. All these things that haven't had the antibiotics, the chemicals added to them, give us a much, much better chance. Then at the same time, we can be doing lifestyle adjustments, like, you know, training with weights, training with cardio as well, eating healthily, avoiding sugar, making sure we're getting our supplementation right. So we're going to be getting enough vitamin D, enough zinc, enough vitamin C. Those vitamins all play a role in our hormone pathways.
Yeah, there are also a lot of women in today's society that are reporting problems with their thyroid, either it's hyper or hypo, So a lot of problems that are on the rise with the hormones, and especially the thyroid. Do you have any opinion on that? Why is this? I know it's probably linked to the same reasons that you mentioned, but is there something specific why females all of a sudden started experiencing more and more problems with their thyroid?
I think the answer is we don't really know yet. I mean, we can hypothesize that it is probably due if we look at the general incidence of hormone related issues occurring. It does seem to be occurring in tandem with more and more processed foods in our food chain, more and more pollutants in our environment. I think that's playing a large factor.
So do you have any advice for women, like if somebody's having problem with their thyroid, what should they do? How should they optimize their hormones? Because once you start having problems with your thyroid, it's linking to many other problems, and usually when you go to the doctor, they will give you some hormones to take, but these pills are also not that much healthy, and they're coming with other set of problems. So what's your advice for these women?
I think for anyone, whenever you're looking at any kind of hormone replacement therapy, whatever that's for, is number one, avoid synthetic hormones. Try and get bioidentical hormones, that actually like mimic the body's hormones. And then also remember that in itself is not a magic pill. I see this all the time with women like, oh, I'm on HRT now, but I don't understand. I'm not feeling any better. Well, guess what? You're still sat on your couch ordering Domino's pizza or whatever, like three times a week. It's got to go hand in hand with these lifestyle adjustments. We've got to give ourselves the best chance. I think, modern medicine does get a bad name for good reasons, but when it comes to the field of hormones, we need to look at what's going on here. As you alluded to, levels of testosterone are generally declining. And we know now that life expectancy for men, if we go back 100 years, was way, way lower, right? Men was kind of dying at like 70, something like that. Now we're seeing more and more. I saw today on the news actually that there's more 100-year-olds in the UK than ever before. So we're living longer, so we deserve to get more out of that later form of life. So I think it's doing everything you can yourself to maximize your health. But then when you are feeling that things aren't working, go and see your medical practitioner, your doctor, and ask whether hormone replacement therapy is a good option for you. But figure out how that fits into your lifestyle and the goal you want from it as well.
How are hormones, and I just want you to give them as simple explanation as possible for the regular people, just to understand how they're linked with your body's energy and potential.
Yeah, so let's use a really good example, right? So people who get stressed, obviously when we're stressed, we can get quite worked up. In the moment of stress, we can have quite a lot of energy to deal with whatever the problem is, but often then we'll feel quite flat afterwards. So people who are stressed or have chronic stress for a long time report feeling low energy, anxiety, or the rest of it. Now, why is this happening? Well, this is without taking external influences in terms of things we've talked about, like food chain and pollutants. We have a hormone called progesterone, which is known as the mother hormone. Now, progesterone sits at the top of a branch like this. And on one side comes cortisol. On the other side comes the hormone DHEA, known as the youth hormone. And DHEA in turn produces our primary sex hormone. So our estrogen, our progesterone, our testosterone. So why that has an impact, if we're allowing stress to be a player and we're producing more and more cortisol, we're using more and more of the progesterone to produce cortisol, which means that we then have less DHEA and less sex hormones, which is why then we can get lethargic, because things like testosterone play a massive role in our energy, our confidence, our libido. And if that's depleted by being stressed, because we're using up the progesterone to make cortisol rather than using it for the DHEA and testosterone, that's going to have a direct effect, which is why I said at the start, stress is such a big thing.
What is your advice for people that are living a stressful life? Like, what is the practical advice that they can do to have less stress in their life?
I think look at the environment you're in, right? So we have stress we can predict and stress we can't predict. So stress we can't predict is stuff that just happens in your day, like you go out, you get in a road accident or something. That just comes. We just have to deal with that in the moment. There's lots of things that we do have in our lives that we can predict. We might have that boss at work that always stresses us out. We might have our social media feed, and there's certain people on it that stress us out, but we keep them in our feed. Look at your life and look at what's stressing you that you can predict, And look at how you can either remove that. For example, something we get our clients to do is we call it clean your feed. Go through your social media feed. If you've got all bad news in there, if you've got people that are triggering you, just snooze them or take them out. If you've got people that are difficult to deal with, great. If you can cut them out, it's not always practical. If not, figure out how differently you're going to deal with them. This crosses over, I guess, into the psychology and the mindset. Remember, you can always choose your reaction to a situation. So it's about taking that deep breath, pausing a moment, and going, just thinking to yourself, right, I'm going to choose to do this differently. At the same time, we know that general lifestyle adjustments, things like exercising more, will lower stress levels, and also just practicing things like stress meditation, stress management techniques. So spending a bit of time meditating in the morning or the evening, getting out of work for half an hour and just sitting somewhere quietly. Things like this are generally going to bring your stress levels down.
So basically, curate your stress in your life. Just custom design where you have stress, and then learn how to manage stress. I also want to ask you, there are also types of stress. There are positive stressors, right? For example, you go to a cold shower. This is considered a positive stress. So in your opinion, what is the balance between positive and negative stress that you should have in your life? Of course, you should avoid negative, but what's the balance that of positive stress that you can have? Where is the limit where positive stress also starts to be negative stress in your life?
That's a really good question. So the thing to remember about stress is, as individuals, we've all got different stress tolerances. But more than that, we also have different stress tolerances for different things, right? Always an example, if you're an introvert, you find it very hard to speak. It's almost suddenly like, right, get on that stage in front of 1,000 people and talk. Stress will go through the roof. And you're not going to do a great job because your stress levels are too high. But someone else who's like, I love it, will just be like, yeah, they've got stress, but it's letting them get to optimum performance. So it's about recognizing where your thresholds are for certain things. But the balance between positive and negative is a really important one, because we see this quite a lot when clients come to us. And they might have very stressful careers. They're very driven, they're very stressful. So they've got a lot of lifestyle stress going on. But then they're like, feel that they've lost touch or contact with their body, and they're not liking the way it looks, they're putting on weight. So they'll be training, which we'd say would be positive. But actually, and particularly as we age as well, we need those recovery times. If we're just hitting the body day after day after day, we're overloading the central nervous system, we're never recovering, the stress is going up. So it's about monitoring, I think, your own performance, your own energy levels, and seeing where the things you're regarding as positive may be actually adding to your overall stress levels and degrading your performance, and then looking at how you wind those back and find the recovery periods in between.
Very interesting. So for example, personally, I am using a lot of cold showers. I'm exercising, I'm trying to eat as healthy as possible, try to avoid tap water, as I said. And I feel that whenever I'm living this type of life, I have a lot of more energy, a lot more focus, because there are also times where I cannot be on my diet on a high level so much, like to have a healthy diet or to exercise every day. And I know that when I exercise, even though sometimes I might feel tired, after the exercise, I always feel that I have a lot more energy. It's so much counterintuitive for people that, for example, they go to work, they're tired 9 to 5, they come home and they're tired, and they don't think that if they exercise, they can actually get more energy. What are these counterintuitive things in our life that we are not maybe thinking that if we do, we will get more energy, and they will impact maybe our hormones and unleash more of this potential that's within us?
That's exactly right. We see this all the time. People come to us, they're like, oh, I'm so busy and I'm so tired all the time. Like, I can't find time for exercise. And then even if I did exercise, I'm going to be way more tired. We're like, okay, well, let's look at actually prioritizing the time, because do you want to feel better or not? Where can we create that time for you in your day? Maybe you just need to set your alarm 15, 20 minutes earlier. Or every time when you get them exercising, they're like, wow, this is incredible. Like, I've actually got more energy even though I've done the exercise. Like, yeah, because listen, in evolutionary terms, we're not moved on from being hunter-gatherers. We're designed to be up on our feet, moving around most of the day. But most people, right, they spend all their day just sat in a chair or on a sofa, not moving. It's not how we're designed to be. And of course, if we're not generating that energy, we're not going to feel that energy. The other thing is, this is a fascinating thing for me. When we exercise, we produce something called endorphins, again, neurotransmitters that make us feel good. If we're exercising consistently day after day, even on the days where we don't exercise, where we have those important rest days, we still get the endorphin boost because the body's already expecting it. It's programmed to have it. And this is why exercise is so transformative, helping people not just get back in touch with their body, but actually rebuilding the connection to themselves and to their mind as well.
That's super interesting, by the way. It's you really feel like a superhuman after you have the exercise, even though you felt tired before that. And I want to ask you, like, can you give us a glimpse about what you're going to talk about on the Superhuman Summit?
Yeah, so at the Superhuman Summit, I'm super excited to be talking about hormones. What I'm going to do is kind of give an overview of some of the main hormones that we have and the role that they play in the body and how they interconnect, and also bring in a little bit about neurotransmitters as well. So hormones and neurotransmitters have a very, very close relationship. Basically explain how we can optimize our health and also reveal a few surprising things people might not know. So I'll give you an example here, right? This common one. A lot of women, when they drink something like white wine or bubbly wine, the next day they'll have what we call anxiety, right? It's not just a little bit of a hangover. They feel like low mood as well, anxious, depressed. Like what? The sulfites in the wine actually decrease estrogen production. Estrogen has a role with serotonin, which is our feel-good hormone. So if our estrogen is lowered, our serotonin is lowered, and that's how we get the anxiety the next day. So we might not even think of that. We think it's just the wine. But it's directly affecting primary sex hormone for females, and then having a knock-on effect to the feel-good neurotransmitter as well. So stuff like that I'll be covering. And of course, how you can easily make simple adjustments, because I think it's very important to make you reference. Yes, we can go and dial everything in and be super focused, and it's good to be like that. But also remember, life is to be in balance and enjoyed as well. So it's simple adjustments you can make to work in line with what's going on with your hormones, just to feel great every day.
Wow, I'm super excited to have you and to listen to your talk and for the summit itself, because basically you will give the whole framework about how people can tap into their hormones and optimize them. And I know that when your hormones are optimized, you literally feel like a superhuman. You have more energy, more clarity, you think better thoughts, and you do better actions, and your results are better. Everything in your life is optimized when your hormones are optimized. So thank you for being on this podcast. I know we had a short time for this podcast. I would love to have you a lot more and discuss a lot more about hormones, because they're so fascinating for me. Where can people find you if they want to reach you?
So the best way to find me is at themidlifementors.com. That's our website. And then our socials are Midlife Mentors or the Midlife Mentors across Facebook, TikTok, Instagram.
So thank you so much. We will leave these links in the description. And also another invite for people, if you want to get your 4-day pass for the Superhuman Summit and listen to James and also listen to over 25 other coaches that will talk about topics aligned with the spirit, the mind, the body, and the heart, and help you uncover the secret superpower in each of these pillars, then in the link in the description, you can go and get your 4-day pass, or you can go to lifecoachcode.com/superhuman summit and grab your tickets. What we're going to talk about in this summit, you cannot find anywhere else on the internet. It's going to be exclusive information that all of the experts and coaches are going to share only there. There are going to be workshops, panels, and also a lot of free gifts that each of these coaches will give to you. So if you want to be part of this journey, transformational journey, then I strongly urge you to get these tickets, because I know I would not have wanted to miss this event. I know there are a lot of events and a lot of promotions, and I know this sounds like another promotion, but I really want you to get inside this, because this is really going to be a life-changing event, unlike any other. So go to the link in the description or go to lifecoachcode.com/superhuman summit and grab your tickets. What we talked about today with James is just a tiny glimpse of what the superpower of your body is, what the full potential of your body is, and how to uncover it, really. So the hormones and all these things that we talked about today is just a tiny glimpse that is showing you a tiny part of the real superpower. And if you want to uncover it, get your tickets for the Superhuman Summit. Thank you so much, James. If you have anything else to add for the end, just feel free.
I was going to say thank you, and yeah, everyone, grab your summit tickets. It's going to be an amazing 4 days, and I can't wait to see you there.
Thank you so much, and see you in the next episode.